It has now been exactly 1 month since I have owned the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. And honestly, in my opinion, there is some pros and some cons about using this camera. For this video, I want to share with you guys some of the things that I like about this camera, some things that I hate about this camera, and the reason why I even bought this camera in the first place, and the reason why you've been seeing it here a lot lately on this channel. Let's get right into it. Okay, first things first. Unfortunately, we're going to start out the video being pretty negative. So the first big thing that I hate about the DJI Osmo Pocket is the gimbal motor. I don't know if it's just mine or what it is, but for some reason, every now and then, the gimbal decides to just have a mind of its own. It starts spazzing out, it starts spinning around. If I go like too far to the left or too far to the right where I reach the access point, sometimes even when I turn it on and I'm trying to hit record, it'll just start spazzing around. And honestly, it kind of reminds me of a regular gimbal that I used to use on my A7S III back in the day, when the gimbal motor would just go crazy if I didn't calibrate it right. Now, it doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen, and to me it's quite annoying and I really don't like it. If the motor acts up before I'm able to post this video, I'm going to insert a clip to show you guys exactly what it is that I'm talking about, because it's really annoying. Now, con number 2 for me is going to be the image quality. Now, hold on, it's not a bad image quality, but for me personally, I just don't like how action cameras look, the image quality that action cameras produce. I don't know if it's because I primarily use an FX6 and I use any other cinema line camera, and just those looks of those cameras just look so much better. And obviously it's an action camera, I know it's not gonna look like a cinema camera, I don't expect it to, but me personally, I don't like how action cameras look. But that's not the reason why I bought this camera. For those of you who are gonna say, well, then why'd you buy an action camera if you don't like the looks? Why are you complaining? That's not the reason why I bought this camera. We're gonna talk about the reason why in a little bit, but a con for me is just the action camera. It's not just this camera, I also own a GoPro, and when I had my GoPro, I still have it, but I don't ever use it. I just didn't like how the images looked out of it. It's not a bad image, but it's just, I don't like the colors that action cameras produce. They're honestly all the same. The next con that I honestly have with this camera is going to be every single time you turn it on, there's always a bunch of notifications, or even when you're just using it, there's always notifications popping up on the screen. Like I mentioned, if you hit the gimbal access point, there's going to be a notification that pops up on the screen. It is windy out here. I have you literally hanging on a door and you're swinging back and forth. I'm sorry if that bothers a lot of people, but every time you hit the gimbal access point, there's always going to be a notification popping on the screen. If you connect your wireless mic to the gimbal, there's going to be a notification popping on the screen. And to me, it's just really annoying, especially if I'm in a run and gun situation where I'm trying to capture something really quick, or I'm trying to explain something really quick. I don't want every single time I connect my DJI mic to the gimbal, it always has a notification saying that you are now connected. Why can't it be like my FX6 or any other Sony Alpha camera, or any camera in general? Why can't it just connect and not have to give me a notification? Now, there is some cool features about this DJI mic that I am going to talk about a little bit later in the video in my pro section, but we'll get into that. But let's move on to the next point. Moving on to the next con is going to be that this camera is not weather resistant. I honestly compare it to an action camera. It's kind of like an action camera, and I feel like if it's going to be compared to an action camera, it should be weather resistant. I would imagine people who purchase this camera want to take it into some extreme environments, and they don't really have that peace of mind knowing that their camera is going to be okay because it's weather resistant. We have lenses that are weather resistant, we have cameras that have weather sealing. Why isn't this camera one of those? And it kind of sucks that this camera isn't weather resistant, because I honestly do plan on taking it into some pretty extreme environments. I do want to test it out, see how it works, see how it handles, see how it holds up. But I don't know. Now I'm kind of nervous because I don't want to ruin this camera. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But let's talk about the next point. I honestly don't know if it's just me or other people have the same issue, but I find it pretty hard to navigate through the menu system. I don't have the biggest hands, but I would imagine that if someone who is a little bit bigger than me does have really big chunky hands, it would be kind of annoying to navigate through the menu system. I have pretty long fingers and I find it kind of tedious. Now, I get it, it's a small action camera that fits into your pocket. That's the whole motto, that's the whole design, that's the whole selling point. I love it, it's great. But I find it just a little bit difficult for me to scroll through the menu system, and it kind of makes me not even want to scroll through the menu system because of how small and tiny and pretty much cram-packed everything is. There's not a whole lot of buttons or dials or switches that's on the actual gimbal itself, which is amazing because I feel like if there was, it would be a pain in the neck. So I'm glad DJI didn't do that. You really only have two options. You have a joystick and then you have a record button, and that's pretty much it. The only two buttons that you're going to get on this gimbal. Anything else would have kind of been a clunky nightmare. So I'm glad they didn't do that. But the screen, it's a better size screen. It's upgraded from the DJI Osmo Pocket 2. It is bigger, but I still feel like everything is still just so cramped. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. Let me know your guys' opinions in the comment section below. All right, so now we can finally get into some positivity. Enough with the negativity stuff, am I right? So the first pro I can say about this camera that I love is the DJI mic that it comes with. The mic is amazing. It's fabulous, and honestly, it's gonna be my new go-to wireless lavalier microphone, even when I'm pairing it with my FX6. So with this DJI microphone, it has 32-bit float, so you never have to worry about clipping your audio ever again. It has a noise reduction feature, so it blocks out all wind noises, any other distracting sounds in the background. It just removes it, which is amazing. Not only that, the best part about this microphone is that it internally records audio. So if I want to pair this with my FX6, if I want to de-rig my FX6, take off the top handle, you guys know you'll lose the audio if I remove the top handle on the FX6. I can just internally record into this and then sync the audio in post later when I'm done. And syncing the audio literally only takes like 2 seconds to do. This microphone itself acts like a transmitter and a receiver. So now whenever I go traveling, I don't have to bring a transmitter or receiver from my FX6 or any other camera that I may be using at the time. I can just bring this one microphone and I'm good to go. Another great thing about this microphone is that it automatically connects to the DJI Pocket as soon as you turn it on. So there's no wires, there's no cables hanging from anywhere. It just automatically Bluetooth wirelessly connects in 2 seconds, and it vibrates also when you connect, so it lets you know that you're connected because you'll feel the vibration in the microphone itself. That's amazing. Now, the second pro about this camera is going to have to be the accessories that it comes with. If you're gonna buy this camera, you might as well get the creator combo, spend the extra $100 because it comes with some accessories that, in my opinion, are kind of worth it and they're kind of useful. I know sometimes when you're buying a lot of different cameras, they'll throw in these different packages and offers and give you these accessories that are just completely useless and you don't really need them. But with the DJI creator combo, it comes with accessories that are actually useful. For instance, you get the DJI mic, you get a magnetic clamp for the DJI mic, you get an extension for the DJI Osmo Pocket. So if you're someone like me who, again, has longer hands, the Osmo Pocket itself, without the extension, it's really small. But with the extension that they give you, I find it more pleasing to hold, and that's what I use. And not only that, they give you a second battery that is longer in extension, so you have a longer length to hold. And then they give you another small plush case to keep the Osmo Pocket, and then they give you a hard case, which is what I use all the time. And then they give you a wide angle lens. I believe it's like a 14mm, which is great for getting cool, unique shots. I'm not a big wide angle lens fan as it is. This wide angle lens that comes with the Osmo Pocket is already pushing it for me. I really don't like wide shots, but for vlogging and content creation, it makes sense. It's perfect for that. Really quick, let me show you guys the view that I'm working with right now. Like look at that. But yes, the accessories, that is a pro for me. Moving on to the next pro for me, I'm gonna have to say is you're able to get a lot of recording time using a small 64GB micro SD card. That is something that initially I was worried about when buying this camera, because with the FX6, the files on that camera, the MXF files, they are pretty big. So therefore you don't get a whole lot of recording time on a 128GB. I believe in 24 frames per second, I get about 66 minutes, but in 4K, I get about 23 on a 128GB. And that was something that I was kind of worried about with the DJI Osmo Pocket. I wasn't really too sure how much record time I was going to be able to get. So I was considering getting a 256GB micro SD card, but I decided to hold off and wait because I have a 64GB micro SD card that I used to use for my drone when I had it before I crashed it. So I'm here to tell you guys, if you're looking for micro SD card options, if you don't really record a whole lot, you just use it for B-roll here and there or make little clips like this, a 64GB, in my opinion, is enough. 4K 24 frames per second on a 64GB micro SD card is going to give you around an hour and 15 minutes of record time. But now if you downsample to 1080p, you're going to get around 2 hours of recording time, which is great. Now if you're someone who is constantly vlogging, maybe 4K 24 with only an hour and 15 minutes of record time isn't enough for you. But for someone like me who doesn't really vlog and who uses this camera for videos like this, An hour and 15 minutes is more than enough time for me to be able to get the content that I need for you guys to view. So keep that into consideration. The next pro for me is going to have to be this camera has D-Log. If you don't know what D-Log is, it's a flat picture profile that allows you to color grade your footage and to manipulate the colors that you want for your final image. It's a pro for people who care about that. For me, I don't care about that and I don't use it because I find when using action cameras, when using the log feature, I just find that you can't really color grade the footage too hard. Now, I'm not a colorist by any means, but for me, I found that when I used to color grade my GoPro, or even when I tried color grading this footage, if you really push the colors too hard, your image completely falls apart. It's not like color grading a Sony camera, a Canon camera, a Panasonic camera. Those can really retain the details and retain the information really, really well, and you can push it pretty hard. But with the action cameras, I feel like if you push them too hard, they just completely fall apart and they just don't look good. And that's exactly why I leave it in just the baked in picture profile. But if you're someone who maybe is good at color grading and you're experienced and you love color grading, this camera does have D-Log. So you're able to retain the information in your highlights and not have your sky completely blown out on a bright sunny day like this. Now, my last and final pro, which everybody probably already knows by now, is going to have to be the form factor. Nothing beats how small and compact this camera truly is. I mean, it's called a DJI Osmo Pocket for a reason. This thing seamlessly can fit in your pocket. For someone like me who just wants something really, really small, something really, really quick and easy, I like it. And I prefer filming on this rather than filming my behind the scene vlogs on my phone. I used to film all those videos on my phone, but I find it when I'm filming on my phone, I get notifications popping up. Sometimes I'm running out of storage. And when I'm working, I don't like using my phone for work because I don't want nobody texting me. Yeah, I can put it on Do Not Disturb, but for me, it's really annoying. I want a dedicated camera for work. I don't like using my phone and I don't want nobody texting me while I'm trying to work. I don't want notifications popping up. I don't want emails popping up. I don't want nothing to pop up. I just want a dedicated camera where nothing pops up except for the stupid little notification that tells me I'm connected to my DJI mic that I complained about earlier in the video. Besides that, I just want a camera that's going to allow me to be able to pull it out, hit a button, record, and it's good to go. I can lock in and stay focused. And the fact that this is so small and compact, it fits in my pocket and it acts as if it was an iPhone, essentially. All right, so now I want to take this portion of the video to explain to you guys the reason why I even bought this camera in the first place. And there's only one main reason why I bought this camera. And it's because I wanted a small, portable, compact behind the scenes camera. That is it. I didn't want to go out there and spend $2,000 to $3,000 on a behind the scenes camera, especially since I knew that I wasn't going to use it a whole lot. I wanted a small, compact, dedicated behind the scenes camera for this YouTube content. And I wanted something that was going to be affordable. I wanted something that was going to be easy to use because if I'm in a situation where I need to have someone who doesn't know anything about cameras film me, I don't want to have to worry about if they're holding the camera steady, if it's too shaky, if they're not locked in on focus or whatever it may be. When I use this camera, I pretty much use the settings that it came with straight out of the box. I don't touch nothing, and that's exactly why I wanted this camera. I wanted a camera that I can just use straight out of the box. For my settings, I have my exposure set on auto exposure. Ew, I know. When I use my professional line camera, everything is manual, but with this camera, since it's so portable, since it's so like run and gun, I just set everything to auto except for white balance, because the white balance does get a little wonky when I'm in outdoor situations like this. It's constantly changing and it doesn't look good, so I keep that at 5600 kelvins. In my opinion, this camera works better when you're in outdoor situations like this. That's why a lot of my videos that I film on this camera are outdoors. I find that when you're filming in some low light situations, when you're filming it indoors where the lighting really isn't great, especially when you're not shooting in D-Log, the footage just falls apart. It doesn't really look good. I think it looks better when you're in outdoor situations like this. So that is primarily when and where I use this camera mostly. And the second reason is because of how low key it is. Because of the form factor and how tiny it is, it's just super small. It's super unnoticeable. If someone is filming me behind the scenes, I don't have a big camera that could be distracting if I'm on set or if I'm on a freelance job or whatever it is I'm doing. If I'm out in public, it can be very distracting. But with this small camera, people don't even notice it. But those are the main two reasons on why I even bought this camera in the first place. Well, that's pretty much it for today's video. If you guys did enjoy it, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And I'm gonna catch you guys in the next video. Nos vemos pronto.